So welcome to today's Greater Life CoffeeCast. And today, with the pillar of hustle, focusing on clarifying your value, I want to deep dive into a concept you may be familiar with. And it is the concept of Ikigai, the Japanese art of living a fulfilling life. And if you've ever seen the diagram of how to lay out your Ikigai and find your Ikigai, your sweet spot, it is where a passion that you have intersects with, you've got four intersecting circles creating a sweet spot in the center, right, which is your Ikigai. A passion that you have connects with a problem in the world and a proficiency you have, i.e. something you're good at, and then something that you can get paid for. All right? So passion, problem, proficiency, and paid. Right? Or we could say passion, profit, proficiency, and problem. So passion, because profit is probably better than paid in this instance, right? And you may be familiar with this idea. It's fairly simple, right? Okay, so where is something you're good at, and something you care deeply about, and something you're passionate about, and that can get you paid, right? How do you bring all those elements together? And I was listening to Stephen Bartlett and Alex Hormozy discussing on The Diary of a CEO this idea. And it really struck me like, I of course understood this concept, but what they were talking about was, where can your skill set find a place in the market where it is in greatest demand? And like they were discussing that, of course, you know, the skill set of, say, storytelling could be valuable to a local business and you could go and help them with their marketing. But Stephen Bartlett was giving the example of, you know, his skill set for storytelling and social media, where he found he could add the greatest value and actually therefore charge the greatest amount of money where people would just pay him and think he was brilliant, was for companies who were about to go public. That is, they're very, very successful companies, likely already making a lot of money, and he could help them through his storytelling skill set to make incredible amounts of money. Okay? So for him, he could get very, very well paid for helping a company to make, to get even better paid themselves, right? And so his skill set, that same skill set on a local business level could be worth maximum maybe £1,000. But when he connects that up with a company who is already making millions and he can help them to make billions, well, suddenly that same skill set becomes worth many, many millions of pounds. Same skill set, different marketplace, different demands, different needs, very different outcomes in terms of profitability. And it really got me thinking about this idea of clarifying your value. Like last week on the Hustle CoffeeCast and in the Hustle newsletter, we explored this idea of connecting with your customer. And as I was listening to this podcast, it had a revelatory impact on how I was thinking about connecting with customer. Because the reality is that if we follow this to its logical conclusion, your ideal customer, you may not actually even know who they are yet. And by that I mean the person who is in the greatest need of your skills, you may actually not even be thinking that they even exist, right? You may be thinking, okay, the person who most needs my skills of being able to overcome a lack of public speaking skill. Let's just use that example, right? You might be thinking, okay, the people who most need my skill set is business people who are going to pitch to investors, right? That if you could help business people pitch to investors, you know, and improve their public speaking skills, that would be really, really valuable. Okay? But actually, what we may discover if we really looked at your particular skill sets around public speaking, it's not that you are any better than someone else when it comes to helping them design a pitch, even though that's what you've been doing so far. What we may discover is that actually you're insanely good at helping people to speak and be received by an audience with a sense of authority. Okay. So when we then take that, of course that's going to be useful when it comes to, and valuable when it comes to pitching. But actually, what about those CEOs of massive companies who need to deliver bad news to their shareholders? Who need their shareholders, they're selling a kind of vision of a shift in the direction of the business. And they need to be able to do this in such a way that the stock price for the business doesn't plummet through the floor. So if you can help them to share this news in such a way that investors, shareholders, and the media will trust their vision, well, can you see that, like, your help could be worth literally billions of pounds or dollars? Because if the stock price maintains and the company is able to execute its plan and enjoy long-term growth, well, you have literally saved them billions in lost stock price and helped them to earn billions out the other end when they execute on their plan. So suddenly you were thinking that your ideal customer is business owners who have got to pitch to investors, and we realise that your ideal customer, who you never knew existed, is the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So, what we have is a way of clarifying your value and therefore connecting potentially with a brand new high value customer by really understanding what is it that you're great at, where is that thing in the greatest demand, i.e. where is there potentially the greatest pain and the greatest gain. And if we could actually land those two things in the same person or the same example, well, then that's really powerful. Okay? And potentially, therefore, also, where can you then charge the greatest price? So greatest gifts, greatest need, greatest profit. In terms of how we might think about clarifying your value, there we have a trinity. What are the things you're greatest at? Where are they in greatest need? And what is the greatest profit or price you could ask for? Because if you can find that sweet spot, if you can ignite that Ikigai, well then, we have something that could be very special. And potentially we have a whole new customer that you could connect with. Alright, so today my question for you is, what are you greatest at? Like, what are you really, really great at? And if you strip that back to skills or talents or things that you can offer as products or services, where in the world are those really, really, really needed? Like, where is the greatest need for that skill set, that product, that service? And look beyond what you might think of as what you've been doing so far. If you had a blank canvas and you're just like, right, who really needs this skill set? I have got this skill set. Who really, really, really needs this? And then, actually, what would they be willing to pay for it? What am I saving them? What am I making them? And from there, we have the foundations, perhaps, to create next week, to start to look at creating your offer. But it all comes down to clarifying your value. What are your greatest gifts? Where are those gifts in the greatest need for the greatest potential profit? And I close here by saying that profit for you could mean, and should mean probably, a triple bottom line of where will there be the greatest profitability, i.e. you can ask the greatest price, but where can you also then, profit can also be, where can you have the greatest benefit on people and planet? So greatest gifts, greatest need, greatest profit. When we can answer those three questions, then we can truly start to clarify your value.